and welcome back to the next episode of Say What You Want About Real Estate. I'm Michelle Elliott.
I'm Kristina Rodgers.
And today we are talking about winning offers here in San Jose and the South Bay in general. So everyone knows homes go for multiple offers, but how do you win? That is our topic for today. So Kristina, have you seen a home where the top bid did not win?
Yes.
Okay, so let's say it's like a $1.6 million offer, but something 1,589 wins. Why is that? Because certainty is currency, okay?
That's right.
All right, so we're talking today about what is gonna make your offer win. So let's talk about what I always say is number one is the lending, okay?
Yes.
So I think people do not consider that your lender matters. So let's get into it right now. Our number one tip is make sure you have a great realtor on your team. So what do you think people should consider when they're looking for a lender?
I think that your lender is just as important as your realtor. And I say this to my clients all the time, where I tell them, I can do the best job in the world and get your offer accepted. But if your lender can't see through that loan and can't get us to the finish line, it doesn't matter how many times I win the bid on the home for you.
Right.
So lenders, I specifically like it when my clients not only have a pre-approval, but when they've been fully underwritten.
Okay, all right. That's a hot take, is fully underwritten pre-approval.
Yeah.
Okay, let's pause on that and we'll come back to that one in just 1 second. And I'm gonna give you my tips, what I tell my clients. And remember, on this show, we give you all the tips that we tell our private clients. So this is top secret, top agent information. This is real estate gold right here. So listen in. Okay, so what I tell my clients is that your lender is part of your real estate team. Okay,
Yes.
We're all on the same team. Your lender is not off on the side. Okay, I have had deals ruined by clients coming, BYOL.
Yes.
Bring your own lender, and the lender doesn't understand our area,
Yeah.
right? So tip number one, you have to have a local lender. That's number one.
Not an online lender, please.
No.
That's like my biggest nightmare.
Yeah, and let me give you an example. I literally just had a sale where I was representing the seller and the buyer came with a national online rocket, right? Mortgage, right? And they're trying to buy a home here in the Bay Area. It was a condo. And what we got stuck on was they wanted the HOA president to fill out a form to say that the condo would never, that the condo association couldn't get in the way of the lender foreclosing on the loan, okay?
Oh.
And they wanted this HOA president to put this in writing. Let me just explain something to you. In the state of California, that's not even legal. Okay, so like if you have a local lender, they're not going to require anyone to put that in writing because a local lender, okay, even if it's a national brand, Wells Fargo, Chase, those lenders have a department that reviews things per state rules.
Yeah.
Right? And so that wouldn't even come up. We almost didn't close because of that issue on the Rocket Mortgage.
Yeah.
So you need a local lender.
You need a local lender. And I tell my clients that all the time. You're welcome to use any lender you want. However, I recommend this person.
Yeah.
Because my experience with them is they are on time. We are in a
Right.
contract. We have deadlines we have to meet to stay into contract. We've got appraisals that need to happen by certain dates. And so I always tell my clients, I don't get paid for whichever lender I recommend or whichever lender you use. However, I know that I can't get you to the finish line unless we have a great lender working with us.
Right.
And so it is in all of our interests to work with someone that we know is going to make it happen.
Right.
Because you end up in situations like that.
Right, absolutely. And what I think people underestimate is the fact that online lenders and lenders that are outside of the area don't understand, like you said, our timeline.
They don't understand how fast we move.
Right. Everything here moves very, very quickly, right? We're from a lender from another state, you may be dealing with, clauses that they have to get through. We're dealing with completely, usually non-contingent offers, and the lender has to be on time to the close. They don't have any milestones to meet during the transaction, so it's got to be fast, right? We have no other way. We got to make it fast, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I know you brought up having a fully underwritten pre-approval. Okay, so let's talk about the types of pre-approvals. And by the way, one caveat we should mention to you. Us as realtors, we cannot tell you which lender to go to anyways.
No.
Right? So we're legally, we're not even allowed to do that. We give our recommendation. It's of course up to you, but there's good and there's bad. I've had people come to me and they've told me, oh, we had another lender before, or we've had another agent before. They never told us to switch our lender. And they had lost so many offers before they came to me. I met them and with 1 week they were in contract. And that's because they were using the wrong lender and no one told them before, right?
Yeah.
At least give them the advice. They can take it or they can leave it. All right, so let's talk about the different types of pre-approvals that you can get from your lender. And let's start with the pre-qual. Pre-qual.
Yeah, so your pre-qualification, you fill out your application, the lender reviews it, and then based on what you've inputted into the computer, essentially, they decide what you qualify for. So you get a pre-approval letter that says you can purchase up to X amount with 20% down, for example.
Right. So, and your lender is looking at this based on just no underwriter has looked at your file yet. So there's a difference between a pre-qualification, which is like just basic information. A pre-approval is that someone on the lending team has looked at everything, right? So that's like a step above that pre-qualification, if I'm not mistaken. And then a notch above that is a fully underwritten pre-approval.
Exactly. And fully underwritten approval means that the lender has collected the documentation. By documentation, I'm referring to pay stubs, W-2s, and it has gone to underwriting. They've looked at it. And so your fully underwritten pre-approval, all that you need is an address.
Right.
You need an address. You need to have the contract on a home. The address is provided, like you're ready to go. It can move very quickly.
Okay. So, and that that fully underwritten pre-approval, that's basically going to give you the ability to have your file looked already approved by a bank's underwriter, and then that means that your deal is going to go through. Okay. Yeah. There's no other issues that your lender has to go through. It's already done. You've already gone through underwriting.
Already done, already gone through underwriting. The only thing you really have left is the appraisal, and whether or not your offer is contingent on the appraisal depends on what you decided was best with your realtor. But yeah, makes it easy.
All right, we're gonna get into the appraisal in another section. Okay, so our second tip for a bulletproof offer is going to be rent backs. So this is a little bit less of an issue than we have seen in past years, but let's talk about the rent back sweetener. So we'll explain rent backs to you. So essentially what a rent back is that here in the Valley, most escrows take, let's call it 30 days.
30 days, yeah.
Okay, most escrows take 30 days. A lot of sellers will put their home on the market to try and get that spring market activity, but they're not quite ready to move yet. So they're not quite ready to move, but what they are ready to do is get that spring market activity going, and then they want to stay in the home past the closing date.
Yes.
Okay, so explain how that one goes, Kristina.
So a lot of times I see that frequently with like families. So they put the house on in the market in April, they get into contract. It closes, in May, but the kids are in school till June.
Right.
So they want that extra 30 days to stay in the home. Like, we have a very competitive market. So what I typically see is a no cost rent back, meaning we've closed escrow, the buyers now own the home, but they are allowing the sellers to remain as essentially tenants for, 30 days. It's usually what I see, or 29 days, as we like to say.
Yeah.
Because once we hit more than 30, it becomes longer term. And so that's what I see a lot, is usually about just under 30 days is pretty typical.
So families want to be able to stay in the home till the end of the school year.
Yeah.
It makes it very difficult for them to move when their kids are in the middle of school. So they'd like to see, the ability to stay in the home. And that makes the offer very sweet for a lot of young families. Even preschool, I think it's more difficult to move kids when they're in a rhythm. Like once you get to, summertime, it's a little easier for families. But here's the trick, is that by the time everybody's ready, June, our market kind of softens out in June. So smart sellers are putting their home on the market earlier, and they're hoping they're going to get that rent back. Okay, let's talk about 29 days, why we do 29 days. So here in California, a residential lease is considered 30 days or more, okay? And when you have a residential lease, then the tenant has rights, okay? That's number one. Number two, if you are going to have an owner-occupied home and you say, all right, I'm gonna give a rent back, if you rent it more than 30 days, your lender is gonna say, you need to move into that home, otherwise it's not a primary residence, right? It's an investment property. Investment property, totally different rules on lending, okay? So investment property, often you have to put 30% down, and you're gonna have a higher interest rate. So if you want that personal property lending rules, SWYWAR rules, you are going to want to take that as your primary residence, and you're going to want to move in. So we usually try and keep it about 30 days. So if you're a seller and you're thinking, all right, I want to catch that spring market, what lineup did you say? April?
Yeah, I'd say, once homes start going on in April, typically I see, rent backs because they're closing in May, school ends around June. The other time I see a lot of rent backs too is with folks that have been in the home for a year and they have a lot of equity and they want to move, but maybe they need that equity in order to purchase their new place. Maybe they don't know exactly where they're going. And so they need that interim to like pack up and have the funds in the bank account also.
Right, absolutely. Okay. And then people are nervous sometimes, buyers are nervous. Like, what do you mean I have, to rent back? Okay. This is a misnomer, this idea of rent back. And actually it drives our attorneys insane because it's something like a colloquialism. It's not an actual rent because, like, number one, Kristina said, usually there's not even money that changes hands, right? And then number two, you're staying underneath that like rental period, that leasing period for legal reasons.
It's like this gray area almost, right?
Right.
Where you're like, okay, you're not a landlord, it's less than 30 days. We prefer 29 days.
Right,
unless absolutely necessary.
Yeah, maximum, right, absolutely, right. So if you're concerned about that on the buying side, just remember that 29-day rule and you can keep it under that. If you absolutely don't, feel like you can provide that to a seller, maybe, it's just not the right deal for you. Maybe you got to look for another property because you may have to give that seller a rent back. And a lot of times, like Kristina is saying, if your seller needs the money or if the timing doesn't work for them, they're going to need that in order to make that deal go.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why people need extra time sometimes. And a lot of times I find if sellers have been in a home for a long time, they'll ask for a rent back and then they'll actually be able to move sooner.
Yeah.
It's just like that anxiety of like, oh my God, like if they're living in the home when it's for sale, that's when I see that anxiety in my sellers. So I typically love it when my sellers move out first.
or the other thing that I see is, if they're doing an estate sale and it's like mom or dad's property, you know what I mean? It's like 30 years of stuff in there, they want to get the home on the market. Maybe they're running up against time in terms of the timing they have to sell. Maybe we should do a podcast on that. On selling mom and dad's house.
We should.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Because there's a lot of nuances that we should talk about.
There are a lot of nuances in there. Okay.
And we can talk about why people sell mom and dad's house when they do. The timing on
the timing. The timing. We should talk to you guys about that.
The tax implications. Okay, topic for another.
Stay on topic. Stay on topic. Okay. All right. So there's a lot of reasons why our sellers may need some extra time. So if you want to win the bid and you're a buyer, keep that in your back pocket. You may have to provide that. Okay. So we're saying, hey, this may not be the highest offer. These are some of the reasons why you can win without being the highest offer. You know, I have people coming into my open house all the time, and I say to them, oh, have you written any offers? And they'll be like, yes. I'm like, uh-oh, how many offers have you written, right? And they'll be like, well, I took a break last year. I came back, What's been happening? Haven't won anything yet, These are the things they don't understand about the market, and no one has advised them. So getting a good lending team going, getting someone that's familiar with our market, being flexible on your move-in time and giving that extra time to the seller. All right. The third thing I'm going to say is appraisal gap. So let's discuss appraisal gaps. All right. So to discuss appraisal gaps, we need to explain to you what an appraisal is and how it works on the contract. So there's a couple things that happen on the contract in terms of your contingencies. We use the California Association of Realtors contract or CAR contract here in the South Bay primarily. Some people, do they use PRDS anymore?
Oh, I think they do on the Cupertino, Los Gatos side.
Oh, yeah.
I think that they start going up the peninsula. I think they like that better.
I think Peninsula, I think they're still hanging tough on that one.
Yeah.
Okay. But here in the South Bay, the most common form, if you want to look it up, it's called CAR, Residential Purchase Agreement. And then, if you want to see a sample of that, just reach out to Kristina or myself, and we'll get you a sample of the contract so you can review it a little bit more in depth. But there are contingencies that are pre-written on the contract, and one of them is the appraisal. There's two other major contingencies. One is your buyer's inspection contingency. We can talk a little bit more about that on another time. And then the other one is your loan. Okay, so loan and appraisal are actually separate. Okay, so on appraisal contingency, this is how this functions. So let's say that you were making an offer and your offer was $1.6 million. Okay, and when you and the seller agree, that is, you're in escrow, okay, and you have a ratified purchase contract. So once that purchase contract is ratified, if you have a loan, your lender is going to send out an appraisal on your behalf, right? That you have to pay for.
Yes. I mean, it's a line item in there.
Right, yeah, it's a line item in there, right. But it is a cost, additional cost to you. So you're going to pay for that appraiser to come out, okay? And the appraiser is going to tell you whether or not your offer is in line with the market. Because what the lender's trying to do is protect their investment.
Yes.
They are protecting themselves from fraud. They want to make sure that you're not overpaying for the property. And there's a variety of other reasons why they want to send out an appraiser. But that's generally the idea. Okay. So the appraiser will come out, and let's say in this case you offered $1.6 million. Yep. Let's say the appraiser says, okay, actually, the house is only worth $1,550.
Oof.
Oh, right? That $50,000 is called the appraisal gap. Okay? Now, we normally don't see $50,000 appraisal gaps. This is just for easy math. Okay.
Yeah, easy math.
Easy math. Okay. So, there may be an appraisal gap when you are making your offer, but let's explain how that can happen. Okay? The way that happens is the market is ascending faster than the comps are catching up. So if every house that comes on the market, someone bids higher and higher and higher and higher, the comps for the property, okay, have not caught up with those prices, okay?
Because those higher price ones may still be pending.
Yes.
And so they haven't closed, which means the appraiser's not going to see that data.
Think back to when we said that every escrow is 30 days, okay? So when the appraiser goes to pull the comps, and that's how the appraiser decides whether or not that the property is, the appraised value, they determine the appraised value using the comps. If the comps are in escrow for 30 days, they sold 30 days ago, but the data won't post until 30 days later. So it's essentially old data. So when the market's moving really, really fast, you could end up having to bid above the last comp in the neighborhood to beat out the other bidders.
Yeah.
That's how that happens, okay?
And the appraisal is one of the first things that gets ordered once you are in contract, meaning you're probably going to have an appraiser out to your property within 7 days of getting into contract, meaning like we're just not moving fast enough with those other properties. Right,
absolutely. So there's going to be some lag there, right?
Yeah.
So that's how you end up with that appraisal gap where it's the comps are not pacing with the market. The market's moving faster than the comps can close, essentially, right?
Yeah.
We've had this a lot over the history of this market. I would say right now, what do you think the market's doing right now in terms of concerns on appraisal gap, Kristina?
I think, I have not had a property that hasn't appraised in quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have low inventory right now, so they're competitive. The good homes are seeing competitive, and I do see that things are appraising currently. That's what I'm seeing. What I do, and this is why your realtor matters also, is anytime my client is doing an appraisal, anytime there's an appraisal on a property, it doesn't matter if I'm representing the buyer or the seller. It is a buyer's agent's responsibility to be there. However, it is also in my client's best interest if they are the seller for it to appraise for everybody's sanity.
Yeah, right.
So I always show up to the appraisal. I always run the comps for the appraiser on their behalf. And I go above and beyond and I call every single pending property to find out how many offers did they get. That gives them a true gauge of how competitive this was. What was the demand on the home? And then I ask them what a ballpark. Some agents will tell you what it's pending at. Others will kind of give you a range. And then I provide that to the appraiser along with what has actually closed, because then I can give them that idea of what that lag looks like.
Right.
So that I think really helps with the appraisals. I always provide that to the appraisers just to make sure they understand the competitiveness, especially if I get an out of area appraiser.
Oh, yeah.
That's a whole other challenge in itself.
Another challenge, yeah.
And then, it's like everything else. It's really nice when you start seeing the same appraiser and you're like, oh, it's you again. Great.
Yeah.
We've worked together before. Like, this is good.
Right.
And I'm never pushy with the reports that I do run for the appraisers. I always say, hey, I wouldn't be doing my due diligence for my client if I didn't provide this. I give it to them. I let them know. I'm like, hey, and conversationally, like, hey, that one around the corner that had 5 offers. It's pending, 50 or 75,000 over asking. And just to kind of put that in their ear a little bit so that they know what the market is doing, because I just need the home to appraise at our offer price.
Yeah. And I think you're hitting on it exactly, which is, and I think you hit on a couple of good things here. So, number one is we have plenty of comps, which is the reason why we're not getting the gap. And the reason why we're having plenty of comps, if you hear that out in the market, it's super competitive here in Silicon Valley. That's what we're dealing with, like super competitive Silicon Valley. Yes, but only for certain properties. Right?
Yes.
So we have this sort of uppy downy market, right? Where one property will kind of sit on the market and one property will fly off the shelf. But fly off the shelf and sort of meet comps. Even though we're seeing properties, they have multiple offers, the market is not moving past the previous comps, not usually.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's why we're not seeing so many appraisal gaps. So not a huge issue, but the way that you determine your risk on this is to do a very good comparative market analysis, which leads me to my third tip. Okay, so that is our third tip. And this is going to be a controversial one, which is your agent matters.
Yes.
Okay, sorry people, your agent matters. If you're thinking about using your cousin that lives in Modesto, your cousin doesn't understand our market. I'm sorry.
We move so fast.
So fast.
Compared to other areas. And it's like, anytime I'm representing a seller and I see an out of area agent, I'm like, oh no. Honestly, they're usually not close.
Right.
They miss the mark.
But here's the other thing. Here's the unwritten rules. And you didn't hear this from us. But we're judging. Okay? If you're a listing agent and you have offers coming in, there are very strict rules about what your seller can determine about your offer. And the only thing they can judge on are things like money, the skill of your agent, and whether or not they think that your offer is solid, okay? You thinking you wrote this cute little letter about your kids or your dogs or whatever, newsflash, that's discrimination. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So our sellers are very savvy these days. They don't want to get caught up in a lawsuit about anything. They don't want to take any chances. And really, they just want to judge by how well your offer is written, how strong your offer is.
They want the offer that's most likely to make it to the finish line without falling apart. It's that simple.
Amen.
And so what are they looking for? They're like, for me, I look for a clean offer. When I say a clean offer, I mean, I am judging the agent. Is their paperwork filled out properly? Are there mistakes along the way?
Right.
Because that is going to give me an indication of what the next 30 days are going to look like for me and my client.
Okay. And listen, first impressions matter. Let's say you're the listing agent and your cousin is coming from LA. The first impression of their, what's the LA zip or area code?
310 if you're
okay.
OG.
Yeah. So like, and you see a 310 coming in, you're already thinking this is not going to go well. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh no, listen, my agent works in Beverly Hills. They know, They don't know. Okay. I'm sorry. They don't know. They don't understand our area. They don't know how fast we move. They don't understand our rules. They don't get it. Right. And I'm not saying that they're not going to take your offer because your agent is out of area. What I'm saying is they're already making little notches there about, okay, who's going to be the strongest? Because we don't have that many criteria we can judge about. Right?
And if there's another offer that comes in very similarly to an out of area agent, but the in area agent has communicated, has clean paperwork, you've done business with them before, like, who are you going to lean towards?
Because like you said, what they're looking for is someone to get over the finish line. They can be $200,000 over the last comp, but if they can't close, you're not getting any money. It doesn't even matter, right?
Exactly.
So you are trying to look for the agent who is going to get the deal done. First impression, you want someone who's local, okay? And don't get caught up in these like, okay, but this person's this little section neighborhood agent specialist, blah, blah, blah. We're not talking about that.
No.
Right? We're talking about someone who works regularly in your market and who has done business. If you're like, okay, but my BFF, you know, we went to high school together, she's only sold one house, okay, you can, if that's what you want to go with. But just understand that when we meet people at an open house and they told us they've written 7, 8, 9, 10 offers and they haven't gotten one accepted, and they're using, you know, a discount agent or somebody that they knew from high school, but they don't sell a lot of properties, then that's probably what's going wrong.
Yeah, I always ask those buyers, I go, well, why haven't you won?
Yeah, what did they say?
I always ask them, I said, are you not listening to your realtor's advice, or are they not providing you with feedback on these offers? And I mean, I will be honest, I don't take other people's clients, but I will say, you know, if you've lost this many times, you have to stop and ask yourself, it's either A, you're not willing to do what it takes, or B, you're not listening to your agent. And if you're not listening to your agent, then perhaps this isn't a good fit. This is not a good relationship. Perhaps you need to consider alternatives.
Right.
Doesn't have to be me, don't care. But you do have to evaluate, if you're losing that many times, either you're the problem or your agent's the problem.
Right. And you know what? Here's my tip about determining your agent. If you're a buyer or you're a seller, you should be interviewing the person that you're going to work with before you sign any paperwork. And you can, you know, interview 3 agents if you want. I don't even think you need to necessarily do that. But what you do need to do is have a sit-down conversation with that person and make sure that they are a good fit for you and it's someone that you will take advice from. If you think that you are going to be the one to control everything, then I guess you're the type of person who cuts your own hair and does your own dental work, because you need to be trusting the professionals, right? Okay, so if you're interviewing the agent, make sure that the person works in your market, understands your market, and has done a good amount of business so that they can help you make the right
you want them
offer.
to guide you with what's happening in the market at this moment in time, which is why you want someone that's full-time, that's really in it.
Right.
Because it's like every other week, like the trends kind of shift, right?
Right.
So we've got market conditions advisory for a reason.
Right.
It is changing. I tell all my sellers, like, here's what I think your house is worth, but we'll decide 24 hours before going on the market.
Absolutely.
Because when did I run those comps for them?
2 weeks ago.
At least, right? Or when did we sign the contract?
Right.
2 months ago?
Right.
How long did it take us to prep it? Like, yeah, the market has shifted since
Right.
then.
Yeah.
So,
and like you said, I think it's 2 week increments,
Yeah.
right? Little micro markets, 2 week increments, that can make a big difference.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that takes me to my fourth and final tip, which is earnest money deposit. Okay. Earnest money deposit is on that same contract, California Association of Realtors contract, and their typical EMD is going to be 3%.
yeah.
Right?
3% of your purchase price.
Of the purchase price. Okay. So that 3% needs to be liquid assets. It needs to be in a bank account, accessible, something that you can easily transfer because...
Ding, ding, ding. You need it right away. So the contract defaults to within 72 hours, right? 72 hours. However, in our market here, typically what's expected, okay, and this is where if you have a local agent, they'll know this, it's expected typically within 24 hours of acceptance.
Yeah.
Meaning like it better be sitting in the bank if you win.
Right, right.
Because you got to go to the bank tomorrow.
Meaning if you ratify your contract tonight, that means tomorrow AM you need that 3% earnest money deposit.
Like we want you at the bank before noon.
Yeah.
To make sure the funds hit escrow.
100% before noon.
Yeah.
Because otherwise your money may not make it by the end of the day, right? Okay. So so your local agent is definitely going to help you with that. So those are little things you can do that are not going to cost you any money.
They give you that competitive advantage.
Right,
without
absolutely.
throwing more money at it.
Right. And I think the difference between a winning bid and a losing bid is that secret sauce with your agent who's going to be someone who, like, let's say there's the agent who's next to you. They know the rules. They know that they're going to ask for a rent back. They know that they're going to write one day EMD, earnest money deposit. They know that, what was my other tips?
EMD or loan.
Appraisal gap. They know that you have to be wary of the appraisal gap. They're going to know these things. But I always say it's like this. Okay, here's real estate. Okay, if you're a baker, you're going to understand this. So people always ask me. I make the best pie crust, by the way. I just want to let you know I make the best pie crust. But people ask me like, what do you do? What's your recipe? What's your secret? The secret is not in the ingredients. It's how it's done. Okay.
Yes.
So like my pie crust, you got to let it rest. You got to use super cold water. You don't overdo it. It's not the ingredients, it's how it's done, right? So communication, Kristina, you hit on it. How your agent communicates with the listing agent, how your offer is presented to them. And I'm not talking about writing a letter about your dog. I'm talking about communicating your strengths as a buyer.
And also like your agent's relationships out there with other agents. So you want your agent to be calling the listing agent and saying, hey, what is your client looking for? What does your client need? Do they need a rent back? Maybe they do. Maybe they don't need anything. Maybe they're just looking for the highest price. But when you have an agent that knows how to communicate with the other side, that's where you're going to get that most valuable feedback so that you can put together an offer that is compelling, that sets you apart from the competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, I'm going to say something mean, but...
Go, say it, girl.
Okay, here's the truth. No one wants to work with your grumpy agent. So if you have an agent who has kind of a grumpy reputation, I swear to you, other people know it, okay? And so if your agent is not communicating, is not advocating for you, and you're thinking, well, everybody works with this agent, but even though they have like a little bit of an attitude, they don't want to. I promise you, they don't want to. And that can harm you.
Yeah.
You just won't see the harm. Maybe your house didn't sell for as much because your agent's a grumpy agent who doesn't answer their phone. Right? Maybe your agent's a grumpy buyer's agent who won't make those phone calls for you. Doesn't matter if they've been around for a million years. If they're that grumpy agent, they're not doing the best job for you.
I am always shocked when I represent a seller and I receive an offer from an agent that never called me once. I'm like, please tell me there's a better offer in this pile.
Right.
Because there was no communication. You didn't ask what my client needed. I could have given you tips.
Listen, girl, being in escrow is like being married. Okay, it is like a 30-day marriage. Am I wrong? Right? Okay, you do not want to get married to somebody who doesn't even ask you if you want to get married before they propose. Okay, Which is what you're describing.
Which always just boggles my mind when I receive offers like that. Like, just, oh, where'd they come from?
Right.
Okay.
Out of the blue.
And guess what? They're usually not the best offer.
Right. Usually not the best offer.
They never asked what we were looking for.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and again, the agent that you want to work with communicates well with you. If they don't communicate well with you, they're not going to communicate well with...
They're not going to communicate with the lender fast enough. They might not communicate with title and escrow fast enough. Like, they still have to work with their client to guide them through the process.
Say it, sister. Okay? So I feel like we're telling you everything now. We told you it's going to get spicy. We're going to get spicy. We're a little spicy here. All right. So here's the takeaway. The market isn't rigged against you, okay? It's not about the ingredients, okay? It's about how you use the ingredients. So watch this podcast. Follow us for more information. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks again.
Thank you.